Oh, still alive. Oh yeah, I can hear you. Oh. Those of you with weak constitutions, you can look away. I haven't had meat in like weeks. And I just got traded a whole bunch of anchovies. Oh. So, hi, Zcat here. I have been sick for the past month. Something kicked my ass, and then another virus kicked my ass, and then a bacteria got a hold of me. So I've been on heavy antibiotics for a while. Keep away from the outside. Try to get calories in my body. So, yeah, I've been sick for a while. I feel much better now, though. Oh, right. Remember a while ago I made a video about District Z? I wasn't sure if it had been Kickstarted or not, and it was driving me crazy. Was actually Kickstarted. Here is a copy of it. It's very nice to get my hands on this. So somebody was nice enough to trade this to me for a whole bunch of ramen, which I can't eat because I'm gluten intolerant. You know how hard it is to be in a zombie apocalypse and be intolerant to gluten? And I don't mean like trendy intolerant to gluten. I mean if I eat gluten, I have a horrible stomach ache and all my arthritis kicks in all at once. And of course, once I get a hold of this, I find out that George Rubio, the guy who wrote it, he did another game. Or he may have made another game. I wasn't sure. It's another thing he may have kickstarted because I got my hands on another prototype. Slaughterville. So, I like survival horror games a lot. If you like zombie games, you're gonna like survival horror games too. And I don't mean survival horror games where you're a heavily armed soldier or warrior. I like survival horror where you're basically just a helpless person, like Silent Hill 2, where you're basically just, you know, an out-of-shape clerk. Or Silent Hill 3, where you're playing a 16-year-old girl. You know, or my favorite, you know, where you're playing a game as a 10-year-old girl. You're helpless. So the only way you're going to get out of the situation is through your wits. So yeah, I like survival horror, especially real survival horror. Slaughterville. Sadly, I only have pieces of Slaughterville here. There was a corrupt copy, I guess, on the PDF that got traded to me. So I only have 2 of the cards for 2 scenarios. And I noticed that, you know, there are other scenarios that are going to be provided, and probably there are other scenarios that exist, and I just haven't seen them. What is this game similar to? Slaughterville reminds me a lot of Betrayal at House on the Hill by Avalon Hill Games, but it more closely seems to resemble, what's it called? A Touch of Evil by Flying Frog. It is a game where you have a base area with its houses and residential areas and churches, and you set it out, and each area is represented by a stack of cards, and over that you overlay a scenario. I only have 2 of the scenarios actually possible here, although I have, you know, the materials for 2 others. So I have, for you guys, I have The Beast Within, which apparently wolves and werewolves are overrunning the town, and Cannibal Rednecks, where the town is open and it's very, very busy for one day every 10 years for the reunion, but if you go to that town, you're either a cannibal redneck or you're barbecue. I don't know why anyone would live in Slaughterville, to be honest. Except for the low taxes and, you know, the great facilities and, you know, jobs. Maybe I should move there.
Hey, look at that. I'm a house owner. That's great. I never thought I'd be a house owner, but the houses here are just so cheap and affordable, and the taxes are amazing, so I did it. I pulled the trigger. I'm a little apprehensive about moving into a town called Slaughterville, but whatever. It's just so safe feeling. I mean, nobody comes out at night. It's just quiet as a grave. Let's have a look. That's weird. But I guess they haven't removed a lot of the things from the past tenants. It's like they disappeared or something. Oh well. Doesn't matter. A little lick of paint here and there. It'll be awesome. Okay. Yeah. Oh, nice. Carpets are fairly clean. Hey, and they were started work on the bathroom. Apparently, one of the past tenants, he exploded or was ripped apart by animals in here. I don't know. But hey, my shower's coming in just nice. A little bit slowed down. One of the workmen disappeared. You know how workmen are, just disappearing from jobs. That's weird. I wasn't here before. And that's it. House looks great. I can't believe I got it so cheap. You know, it needs a little bit of work here and there, and it's a little bit close to the train tracks. Then there's that gate to hell in the basement. And I'll wear earplugs. Time to get the housewarming party going. And this one, I have body snatchers, which apparently there's an alien presence in the town, maybe a Cthulhian otherworldly presence that is taking over people, and I will actually take over the other players and kill them. And then I have a more standard ancient burial ground, where, you know, the sins and the bones the town are built on finally come up to rise against them. I only have the decks for Cannibal Rednecks and the Beast Within. So, I gotta find the rest of this foil. I have no trouble with big games, but when you're on the run or you're, you know, out at a cabin, you don't want to carry too much stuff. When you're under weight restrictions of what stuff you can take to a convention, then taking the big stuff can be a little bit hard. While I admit that this game, Slaughterville, actually reminds me a lot of A Touch of Evil by Flying Frog. A Touch of Evil is a little less portable than, you know, this game. There. Now, I like A Touch of Evil. I think A Touch of Evil is actually a really cool game. This might be a little bit too much to carry to a convention. Whereas, you know, Slaughterville, which being something like this, might be a little easier. Who am I kidding? This is A Touch of Evil. Cool game, but it's table murder. Table murder. Just like Talisman. Anyway, let's have a look at the base components and try it. Alright, here we have a game of Slaughterville ready to go. To set up first, I scavenged these pieces, so this is not representative of whatever the game is going to have when it's actually kickstarted. We have clue tokens, hit tokens, player pieces. That's on the track for the scenario, and over there that's the villain, who's black. Alright, you have the villain card, and the villain card tells you what's going to happen in the game. And in this case, we're playing the Beast Within. And in the Beast Within, we actually choose a character, the nerd. And the nerd was attacked by a wild animal, and he's not been feeling himself. So, to save your friend over there, you have to either destroy the villain and in this case it's a bunch of animals in the woods, or find enough clues inside the town to drop this track down to 0. And that's 4 times the number of characters. That character over there is going to be the villain. The villain is going to be attacking the board, and if you're unlucky enough to get in the villain's way, you're going to take damage and be defeated. So, first to start off, you choose six random locations, and you have these tiles to choose the locations. There are cards provided to choose which locations are used. In the game, you choose 6 random locations. However, for the beast within, you need the forest. So I put it in the number 1 slot. And then you randomly choose 5 others. I only have 5 others because this is just a prototype, but this game begs for expansions with more locations and decks for those locations. So in this case, we're playing with the forest, the residential neighborhood of the town, cemetery, asylum, and it's a half working asylum, half empty asylum, farm area, and the church. Over here we have the characters, and I'm playing with the stoner, the jock, and the spiritualist. And they go to the start. The villain is on its own tile. One more thing is actually needed. You need a first player marker, and the first player is responsible for doing the actions that are on the villain card for the Beast Within scenario. Generally, the first player is going to be the target of many effects, and I can imagine in future expansions that if you're ever given a choice, then that person is going to be responsible for that choice. So, my cute little crawling zombie is going to be first player, the stoner. So, first turn, the stoner goes. The stoner decides, you know what, I'm going to have a look in the asylum. I encounter it. Group therapy. You remember being on tour. You remember them telling you that this room is where the group therapy sessions were held. Suddenly you find yourself sitting in a chair. The dead surround you, each in their own chair. They are not attacking, they are waiting. Can you listen to their stories? Make a nerve check. If you succeed, find a clue. So, nerve is one of the abilities that your characters have, and nerve is how nervous you are, how hard you are. So, make a nerve check. Stoner has a nerve of 3, so he'd take 3 dice, and he'd roll. And 5s and 6s are successes, and he only needs 1, so he would gain 1 clue. Clues are important because clues allow you to end the scenario, for one thing. It allows you to, well, if you go into the forest, you can use your clues in this scenario to drop that track to 0 and cure your friend. But clues can be also used for a lot of other abilities. Some of the abilities on the character cards, you need a clue token to use them. You can use a clue token to run away scot-free, and you can also use a clue token to heal half a d6 worth of damage, or 1d3 if you want to say that. So, next turn, the jock. The jock, he decides, you know what, I'm going to split up because that's what we do in horror movies. Can cover more ground that way, and he's going to go right into the forest, because why not? Hanging dolls. The peaceful walk through the forest that you'd hope to take is interrupted when you look all around you and you find hanging dolls in the trees. Make a perception check. If you succeed, you find a clue. So, he has a perception of, well, I don't think I have to do that for you. He makes a perception check, and if he makes a perception check, and his perception is only 1, then he gets a clue. So some characters are better at some things than others. The jock is very good at combat. Surprise, surprise. On the next turn, the spiritualist goes, and she's going to go to the church because that's her bailiwick. She goes to the church. Writing on the walls. You walk into the ornate and beautifully decorated lobby of the church only to find that it's now covered in strange symbols. Can you decipher their meaning? Make a perception check. If you succeed, you find a clue. Of course, her perception is 3, so she's way more likely to do that kind of thing. And then it goes back to the first player, but the first player has the villain marker on it, so the villain must be resolved. Depending on the scenario, the villain has a certain behavior that they're going to do. For instance, the redneck zombies, generally you roll a d6 and the redneck zombie will go to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, one of the locations to look for victims, and then when they find victims, they drag those victims back to the villain card and buff themselves or take them out of the game or generally make themselves ridiculous. In this case, the villain rolls a die and you follow the behavior. 2. Roll for a random location. On a 1, the villain would resist and not attack. On a 4 to 6, the villain hunts down a player at a random location in order to stop them. Engage in single combat against a player. If no player is in that location, roll again. So, randomly. I suppose if you're doing a friendly game, then whoever controls the villain token, you could just say that they get to choose who they attack. As long as you're, with vindictive players. But there's a behavior that these characters follow. So, in this case, the villain goes to a random location, to the forest. Uh-oh. Alright. Since there is actually a character there, the villain is going to go do 1 round of combat between the character that is there and it. So, villain dice, their dice. The jock has a fight of 4. The villain has a fight of 3 right now. It's just a baby right now. So you roll the dice. Whoa. That's a tie. Remember 5s and 6s? So in this combat, the villain and the hero tie themselves, and nothing really happens. If the villain got more, then the villain would do damage to the hero, and quite likely the hero would panic. And panic is bad because when you panic, you lose clues and equipment willy-nilly. And you need that stuff to actually buff yourself to the point where you can actually either destroy the monster or solve whatever you're going to do. Also, these clues are hard. They're hard won. You don't want to lose them. If the hero gets hit, then you look. The jock has 6 hit points. If the villain beat the jock by 2, then the jock would take 2 points of damage. If the jock ever gets equal to or more than hits, then he's gone. Defeated. Although the jock's special ability is that if he is defeated, that the player can actually get a new character. So the jock is supposed to be aggressive, and this actually rewards aggression. If the villain takes hits, then they're milled right off the top of the deck. Since the villain's not dead, the villain's turn continues. A card is drawn from the villain deck. Spiritual healing. Shuffle a d6 worth of cards at a random location from the villain discard pile back into the villain deck. If cards are being put back into the villain deck, this would symbolize the villain regenerating. That's bad. Don't forget, if the villain deck is milled down to nothing, then the villain is killed, and that's actually one way you can win this scenario besides the clues. But this would represent regeneration. So maybe clues are a better way to go with this villain. The villain's turn is over, so the villain token is moved to the next player. And then it's that player's first turn. And that is 1 round of this game. Some of you may want a closer look at the components. So there's the villain card for the scenario. And on the villain's turn, you can see that the behavior of the villain is controlled by a roll of the die. The nice thing about this game is it is very much possible to play it solitaire. And I know some of you guys, like, me in this bunker, having a game that's both solitaire and team play at the same time is actually a good thing. Stalk your prey. The villain is stalking the first player. Move the villain to the first location as the first player. The first player must make a perception check or engage in a single round of combat. Sharp claws. Attach sharp claws to the villain. The villain gains +1 combat. So, the villain's going to get stronger and stronger the further this deck goes. The entrance to Slaughterville. Here we have the forest, and you can see the villain and the hero are there. and they're either going to beat each other to death or one of them's going to run away. Also, anytime your turn starts and the villain is sitting on your square, then you have to engage in a round of combat with the villain, or else you run away in a panic to a random place. Herbs. A cluster of herbs attracts your attention. You seem to remember something about them from your grandmother teaching you about plants. Make a perception check. If you discard the attached herbs, you heal half a d6 worth of damage. And the trapper. Make a perception check. No, actually make a nerve check. And if you can help him, he'll become your ally. Here you have the cemetery. Zombies, because of course there are. The smell of grave dirt fills your nostrils. A rotting creature reaches for you. A moan escapes from breathless mouth. Zombie, fight 3. Whenever you defeat a creature, you gain a clue. So, it's not best to run away all the time. You remember the spiritualist is at the church? Safe for now. Place safe for now. In your inventory, you may discard safe for now to escape from combat and to avoid combat. Here we have the farm. Farmhand. Gain +1 vitality or hit points. Hanging hook. Hanging from the racks where there should be holding livestock are the remains of the town's victims. Roll a d6. Basically, you get the hook as a weapon. No, you get the hook as a clue. If you fail, you panic, but you have to make a nerve check to do so. And half the time your search is interrupted and you have to fight a cannibal hunter for. So this is both an event, it is both an item, well, a clue, and an encounter. The stoner was at the asylum. You could have easily found the anatomy textbook. Anatomy textbook lies on the desk. You decided to take it with you. Attach anatomy textbooks to gain +1 perception. I've also seen cards where you have to make a nerve check or you have to make an agility check to steal an item. And if you don't steal the item, then you gain the attention of the person guarding the item. And residential. Barbecue fork. Your neighbor will never know it's missing. Barbecue fork gets +1 combat. SUV. You find a large SUV, or you find a large vehicle sitting in the driveway with the driver's side door open. The driver is lying on the ground next to it. Make a nerve check. If you succeed, you find the key to the SUV. Attach the SUV as an item. You may discard the SUV to escape any combat move to any location. And off-screen teleport. Move the villain to the current player's location and engage in a single round of combat against the villain. These are in all the decks, and this just represents the villain popping up in the middle, you know, when you least expect him. That's pretty standard horror fare. And here you have the characters, the stoner, the jock, and the spiritualist. You can see their special abilities down below. But the stats along the side, those are the number of dice you roll. Top one's combat. Second one's agility. The third one's nerve, which is how likely the character can take stress and how likely they're going to panic when something supernatural happens. Perception's the eye, and health. And health is pretty, well, you should know what health is by now. Lose all of your health, you are defeated. What else can I say about this? This game is modular to the extreme. Number 2, I know I have it all spread out here, but you could easily condense the game so you could play it on a small coffee table. That is a concern, especially for those of you who like to travel with games. And number 3, it's a pretty smart looking game here. I mean, even with the components being prototypes. Very nice. Alright, you've had a look at the base components, at least the stuff that I have, so you have a good idea how this game's going to play. Should you be interested in it? If you're the type of person who's played the heck out of Betrayal at House on the Hill by Avalon Hill, House on the Hill. Anyway, if you're that type of person who's played through all 50 scenarios and you're looking for more, I would suggest, yeah, Slaughterville. If you're the type of person who wants to play, you know, a game that has a running scenario, but you don't want to run the actual, you know, scenario yourself because you want to be a player as well, get this game. If you love A Touch of Evil by Flying Frog Games, but you just can't carry, you know, your entire collection to the lake, or, you know, with your wife or significant other to the mountains, then Slaughterville might be a way to do it. If you like survival horror, you'll like this game. I'm going to finish up my fish here, and then I'm going to go work on the house and make sure, you know, barbed wire is clear. Zcat, zombie apocalypse, survival horror, love survival horror, still alive. Still alive. Takes more than 2 viruses and a bacteria to kill me. Stay safe. Now that I'm actually, you know, not going to die, I should really do more game reviews.